We won't be bullied into thinking in a way or a pace that you want me to think. Paul's running around preaching the gospel. They're like, guys, if Paul keeps this up, we're going to go poor.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting perspective when you see how all this gets wrapped up, and it's no different than our modern world right now. I'm in a place now where like I feel a special burden now to really push into fathers and to push into men, and we're going to have those conversations on this.
We're ready.
We're doing it, guys. This is it.
Hey, let's go.
Episode one
of
the Analog Gospel.
The Analog Gospel podcast.
Let's go.
Live from, well, not live. I mean, technically, we're recording it live.
Yeah.
Let's just start this over in 3, 2, 1. Welcome. I'm just kidding. We're not going to.
You told me not to like line it all out like that.
We're going to be, first off, welcome everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are so glad you're here today. We are going to be as best as possible to have some great dialogue, talking through all things. This last sermon from Sunday, which was a really unique one, was a panel with the three of us. You guys just did all.
We had fun.
Yeah, it was
It was a blast.
Yeah,
It really was a lot of fun.
It was a blast. Yeah, I'd preach that way every weekend. But it's like a different prep cycle for sure.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's like double prep almost, because you're trying to be ready for what might pop up.
Yeah, and then you're like yelling across offices to be like, hey, what are you thinking? Did you come up with something?
Right.
I haven't.
Hey, have you done any work on it yet?
Done any work on anything yet? That's great.
It's a good thing I wrote the questions down, but like even then we actually were able to just throw some random stuff at you during
Yeah, it was
you
a lot of
guys.
fun.
It was really engaging, really cool. And then it was really awesome as we actually told everybody to send in their questions, and they did that, and we have some really cool questions we're going to talk through today.
Thanks for doing that.
So let's talk about the agenda for today. What can everybody expect, and what we're going to be going through?
Yep. So we got some things happening around here, why this podcast exists, and some of the thoughts behind it, the philosophy behind it. We've got the 90s throwback section. I think it's important that like you as a viewer get to like know who we are, and we're going to talk about the set that you see here, so that like nobody freaks out. They're like, is there rock band posters on your wall? The answer to that is yes, 100%.
Yes.
And that's why we called that's why we called this thing the Analog Gospel podcast. I am, and I'd say all of us at the table are. We are we bridge the gap between the analog world and the digital world. And I think that's a very unique thing for all of us. We remember like cassette tapes, and we remember VHS, and we remember when music was being made differently.
Yeah, totally.
I played in bands growing up in Seattle. Right. Yes, I was a Seattle grunge rock kid. Worked at Starbucks, had holes in my jeans, loved Nirvana. Like, it is what it is, and that's why they're on the wall. But so we bridge that gap. And the interesting thing that kind of like how this whole podcast and idea started is that our faith is an ancient faith. In what seems like an analog faith, but we're trying to adhere to it in a digital world. And there's a lot of change that's happened, obviously, in this future world that we're living in. I said this on Sunday. I still have not got my hoverboard.
Right.
Still waiting for the pump up Nikes.
Yeah, Elon, if you're watching, just hook a brother up. Like, if you can make a car go without my hands on it, you can make a hoverboard. So anyways, we're bridging the gap in that space. I remember dial-up internet.
Dial-up. Oh man, if you remember that sound.
I could probably do that sound and connect us right now.
Let's do it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I can't. That's like a guttural noise that I don't have.
And then inevitably afterwards, you just hope, please say,
You're just waiting for the
mail.
bing, yeah, and then you got mail part. That's
Do you remember the Oregon Trail?
Oregon Trail, yes.
That was
for sure.
Full on digital.
I used to play the Carmen Sandiego game, which is talk about.
No, I didn't have that, but I definitely did the monochrome. Text-based Oregon Trail.
Guys, our video games had like less than 2 dimensions. Like,
dude, side scrollers are the thing. I still love side scroller games.
Did you ever realize that the Oregon Trail gave people the worst diseases?
Oh, totally. No one wants to die from dysentery.
As an 8th grader, I'm like, this is like, your guy's dead from
dysentery.
And it was dysentery.
You had to look up dysentery, right? Which is basically dying of diarrhea,
100%.
which sounds like terrible.
Brother didn't get the Pedialyte.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Before we go more into the 90s, we also have to talk about the Sunday's message, kind of this dive into Ephesians that we're doing.
Yeah, you're supposed to keep us on track.
Yeah, I know. It's already off the rails.
Get us in trouble real fast.
This is starting great. It's already off the rails. rails, but Sunday's Ephesians message, or our prequel to the 48-week series that we're doing in Ephesians. We're talking about that. We've also got a mailbag that we're going to go through of all the texts that have come in, and it's going to be awesome for us to just go dive into that and just talk about some of the really cool questions that some of you guys have had. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up for next week, just to set your expectations. So here's what we want to do. Set the stage for all of it. Here's how you get connected to this. We want you to text sermon to 55498, and that way you can ask questions, get a link to Sunday services, and get everything that's happening with the podcast, with the Sunday message, all that good stuff. The other thing you can do is text the well to 55498. And then if you've never been to the Well, Utah, we want you guys to text that right now, because that way you can find out about everything that's happening here at the Well on a Sunday morning, formation groups, whatever it might be. All
our groups, all our events, how to become part of what we're doing through Welcome Home.
Yeah.
All the classes, all the stuff.
Yep.
Awesome.
And can I say something about this podcast as 100%. Well? Since it's episode 1. The whole point of this podcast is to just let things go.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for this orderly process that we succinctly walk through things, and point number 1, it's not going to happen. We're going to talk. I think what's cool is you're going to get to see a side of myself, Pastor Howie, other guests that we're going to have, John. You're going to get to see a side of us that you don't get to see necessarily on a Sunday morning, where on a Sunday morning, everything is it's very succinct. We have times that we're working with, we're running through services, so on and so forth.
For sure.
So this is just going to give us the space to really just just go at it, and we're going to have fun. We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. We're going to make fun of things. We will probably stick our feet in our mouth many, many times.
I've never said anything dumb.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. That's strike 1.
I'm like Mary Poppins. I'm practically perfect in every way.
Yeah.
That was a spoonful of sugar that did not go down. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this podcast. And so that just if you're watching, if you're joining in for the very first time, that's what's happening around here. So awesome. Cool.
We also have a little treat for you guys. If you would love we don't even have the merch ready for all of you guys yet to see in person. It's coming, but we're going to show you guys. We're going to put it up on the screens. We have a hat and a shirt that we're working on for the Analog Gospel podcast.
Sweet.
And we're going to give one away on this first podcast.
Can I comment? Do I get chance on this?
I think I might be able to.
I feel like I need a button right now that goes.
I know.
I'll give you a discount code for 5% off.
I appreciate that. Drive and subscribe,
guys.
first.
This merch is one. It's going to be a good way to just we call them memorial stones of our faith, right? Just some cool moments in the life of our church and what God is doing here. So that's a cool thing. 2, we need more posters. So the merch I'm just kidding, but it's just a really cool way for us to just have you engage with this podcast. So here's
and spread the word.
And spread the word.
We will say things. Our prayer, as we've just prayed before this thing got started, our prayer was that everything that is said at the end of the day, although it's going to be fun and we're going to crack jokes and cut loose a little bit, we want everything that we say on here to bring honor and glory to God.
Amen.
And ultimately,
Amen,
we want this gospel to go out. And that's what we will be talking about as we get into the meat of this
100%.
podcast and many, many more episodes.
So here's what I want you to do. Get in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, great, you're already in the right place. But if you're listening to this on any of the other platforms, that's fine. Just get in the YouTube comments at some point, go to this podcast, and leave either the comment hat or shirt, which one you like. You get to choose which one's your favorite based off of what we're showing you here. So leave a comment on YouTube for hat or shirt. Let us know which one you like. Let us know where you're watching from too. That'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Sweet.
We'd love to shout you out.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And then if you have those questions, jump on the chat, jump in the comments, jump in the text thread, all that good stuff. We can't wait to hear from you. Okay.
Let's go.
We ready to dive right in? Mm-hmm. All right, here we go, guys. First, we want to let's dive a little bit about the why. We started with this on Sunday during the message, but let's dive in a little bit more. Kind of why are we even doing this? What's the point, right? What is with the point of this podcast? And what do we mean by ancient faith?
Right. I think the thing that a lot of people, and we talked about this on Sunday, a lot of people are struggling with right now is how does something that is so ancient remain still relevant today? And we play with this idea of an ancient faith in a future world. there's tension in that, because I think the C.S. Lewis, we've said this so many times in services as we preach about this. I know you've talked about this before, but C.S. Lewis makes that comment about of having chronological snobbery. This is the idea that we've advanced. So because we've advanced as a society, that makes things in the past no longer relevant or applicable. My problem with that is that if you gave a book to somebody now from the past, they can't even read it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So inherently in that, we haven't gotten smarter. And so what we're trying to accomplish through not just the series that we're in on Sundays, which we'll get to that in a second, but this podcast is we're trying to play with this idea that the ancient ways are actually still very relevant ways.
Right.
And I think they're probably better ways.
Yeah, I think so. I think as we talk about ancient faith, honestly, I think a lot of people, even when they think ancient faith, they're thinking like early 1900s, maybe even 1800s. My daughter will say, "How was it living with the dinosaurs?" Like there's actually no concept of the amount of time that's gone by.
Yep, thousands of years.
We're talking thousands of generations.
Wow.
Not just thousands of years that this faith has come out of. And so even bringing some holisticness to that, so even beyond chronological snobbery, to be able to talk about how long this has lasted, persisted, like it is a miracle that Christianity exists.
And think about that. This is what's crazy is, to your daughter's point, like we can legit say, hence the analog gospel, what you see on the wall and everything, like we lived in the 1900s.
Right. I know. I joke about that all the time.
That's a weird thing to say, though, when you think about it.
So weird.
We are in 2026. I lived in the 1900s.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Anyways,
it is crazy.
Yeah.
I lived half my life in the 1900s so far, so we're right there.
But thousands of years. I know, especially in some of like the work that I'm doing and the degree program that I'm in right now, work that Howie's done. Like, we've gotten more and more familiar with like our ancient fathers of the faith and different church traditions and patristic faith. So as you start to go back, you start to see like, man, there's just so much that we don't really understand as a part of our faith, because we only really, for a lot of people, their faith development, their theology, their doctrine is 100 years old in terms of what they think back to.
Right.
Versus thinking like thousands of years. Right. Or hundreds and hundreds of years, being able to go back further. So that's where this like ancient faith comes from. There was there's situation, there's circumstance when we look back on the past, but there was a purity to it. And then, as you reference certain authors and writers, and we look at the Gospels and we look at other works, like these guys were 15 minutes from Jesus. So we've also got to realize there was some trust that we've got to assert backwards and stop thinking we're so advanced that we know everything.
This is actually this sparks another question. We're just going to dive right in.
Go.
Yeah,
because it's old. Right now, this is a current TikTok trend. Like we've discovered something new.
Fire.
Yeah.
A wheel.
You're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's old, especially in this generation, it seems to be, it hasn't progressed enough. They just didn't understand. Or they were wrong. They had a misinterpretation. Why is this ancient faith the correct faith? Why is the traditions of our faith
right? Well, I think a lot of people, we went through a phase, especially the past, 20, 30 years of church life, where we said tradition's bad. We called tradition bad because it was methodical and it was repetitive. And it's really funny right now. Like we've talked a lot about this, like this generation right now, college students, young professionals, we talk 20 to 30s and even younger, are like flocking to liturgical churches all of a sudden.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And it's like, oh, so tradition became cool again. Like that, it's just like a weird concept. Everything in humanity swings on a pendulum, and the reality is there's so much that's a part of our ancient faith that is trustworthy, and there's a reason it was there. I think people got bored. That's really what it comes down to, and it's like sometimes we were talking about this morning. Like the gospel is simple,
right?
But for many people who have lived in the simplicity of the gospel long enough, it's like they have ADD or something, and it's no longer. So they got to go to all these other places and do these other things, and it's like no, just live in the simplicity of the gospel. You don't need to add anything to it. You don't need to do anything with it. Like calm down, stop being so distracted. And I think that's why this ancient faith in a future world is really important to explore.
So good.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think. it does just go to that simplicity of who we are and who we're called to be. You know, man, sometimes we just overcomplicate things.
Yeah, totally.
Like we go way too far, and I'm looking for myself. Sometimes I need to just strip things away. So even when we talk about this ancientness, why we can believe it, I mean, the ancient reality of it is what roots us.
Yeah. 100%.
Like it's not something newfangled. Like, man, all the new stuff now is crap. Right? Like, I mean, you know, you buy a washing machine now and you're lucky if it lasts 5 years.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I don't know if you have to bleep that or not, but
no, it's fine. It's fine.
But like, you know, we think new is better, but it's not.
Yep.
You know, and the reality is
corners.
It does cut corners.
That's why it's not lasting all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we try to digitize it to make it simpler. And as soon as something has a computer in it, it's harder to fix, all that stuff. Like, I love the idea of analog because I love that rawness of a record player playing on a record, you know,
100%.
a record on a record player. I love that sound and that feel and 100%. Something tactile about it that you can hold on to.
There's something to be said of stuff that has lasted the test of time. And when we're 100%. Talking about lasting generation after generation after generation, this goes in. Yeah. We can go on this topic for a whole another podcast.
For sure.
12.
Yeah.
But
a whole bunch.
Like the fact that the Bible has survived this many generations and been true to the original is absolutely, not only historically, it doesn't even make sense how incredible it is.
It is miraculous.
It's literally miraculous.
Yeah.
It survived everything.
Right.
Yep. And like, think about it this way, lo-fi music right now. Like if you got on like Apple and you just like lo-fi vibes music, it's actually really interesting because here's what they're trying to do. You have a digitized music that is trying to grab a hold of the character of analog.
Yeah.
So it's got the crack. They're trying to get the crackles. They're trying to do all this, but we want it cool.
And I love lo-fi. But
yeah, and it's fun. Like I have it on when I'm studying. No words. It's got some beats, and it's like, but like I'm listening to it. And I'm like, that is the buzz from an amplifier. That is the crackle of a record. It's hilarious to me that in our new world, we're still trying to harken back to the old because there was something stronger about it. And even now, the younger generation is going back to music like that. They want this. It's raw. It's authentic. It's real. And I think, you know, if we were to button all this up or this portion of our conversation on the analog, why the analog gospel, I think there was a purity to it.
Yeah.
I think there was a grit and some grunginess to the reality of the gospel sitting in the middle of society and culture.
Yeah, I would say that. Well, and I'm sure we'll talk about music here at some point because it's saturated on our walls. But like back when you used to record a whole band together at the same time, rather than grab everybody's individuals and then meld it in, like we're in a place now where everybody's individual thing tries to get melded in rather than you're a group on a mission to produce a thing and you do it together. Yep. And that's one of the things I love about the idea of analog too.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to dive into that topic. That's for another week. We'll do that.
You said that like 5 times.
I'm already excited. I literally have a separate note sheet that I have separate from our stuff that I'm just writing questions down for future stuff. So, okay, great. All right. So next, since you brought it up, let's talk about the set design. Let's talk about the grunge, just all that.
100%.
Okay. Yep. Like, why the 90s? Tell us a little bit of background. What's that connection?
This is my chance to be nostalgic. Yeah. Like just full on. I don't care. Like this is my chance to be nostalgic. Like I loved the 90s. I know every generation, like the generation that was predominantly grew up in the 80s, like they love the 80s and then the 70s and then the 60s and then the 50s. Like when you get to that place, there's all of us have nostalgia, like nostalgia around these moments, and it shaped me. I think this is a very honest conversation. At the end of the day, this is like transparent, seeing my world a little bit. But funny enough, like on this wall, when you look at some of these bands and so on and so forth, like it shaped me in many ways. Like I am the product that my salvation journey. Right. For like. Sure. Had this involved, right? Because of how I was shaped, how I was formed, so on and so forth. And so there's a piece of that where the way that I think and some of the creativity that I have, so on and so forth, it was birthed in this place. And then at the end of the day, I've been super honest about this in church. I love 90s grunge rock. It just is what it is. Yeah. So I'm going to put them on the wall, and I hope you're not offended by it. And
I'm not offended by it.
And if you are, I'm sorry, but these are actually some of the greatest bands to
email no reply at thewellslc.com. Somebody will get right back to you, I promise.
Yeah.
I mean, the angrier the music, the better.
That was the 90s.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that 90s angst is a real thing.
I got it. Okay, then this is just a little fun one.
Okay.
Top 3 90s albums of all time.
Top 3?
Top 3.
Top 3.
Top 3.
You going first?
I sure can. Albums is much harder for me. I like songs. Here's my issue. So I'm 51 years old. So I graduated in 1992. So I have some high school things, some college things, and then even post-college, I'm still in the 90s, right?
100%.
So for me, even though I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, the grunge rock scene for me didn't hit until I moved to LA, listening to K-Rock in LA. And that's when all that, so for me it was college where I didn't even know about Nirvana really until I got to college, which is super weird because they played shows in towns close to me after I left. Mm-hmm. And but for me, Pearl Jam 10 is iconic for me an album.
I think we have a Pearl Jam.
It is down there at the bottom. Yeah. I know it definitely brings back memories. I think there's a CD on a shelf back there too. Pearl Jam 10 for sure is big. Soundgarden, Spoon Man is like I just dig that song so much. Any song that has a great percussion to it, I just love. And then I would say those are my two then. And now I love listening to pretty much anything by Radiohead.
Okay.
I'll go back because their tempos are so weird. Their time signatures are so, it just musically, it like makes me think differently.
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll go albums. Nirvana Nevermind, of course, you might say if like you're into this scene and everything like that. We're like, yeah, that's a throwaway, bro, of course. But here's the deal. The moments that shaped me, I remember where I was at, where I was standing, and what happened when we found out, living in Seattle at the time, 45 minutes south of Seattle, that Kurt Cobain had died.
Right.
And I was at school when it happened, and the entire school, I kid you not, principal came on. We just found out people were watching. Like it was a massive cultural event in that moment, in that time. So I was I remember the classroom I was in. I remember the people that I was with when the principal came on the loudspeaker and said, "We're going to take a moment of silence for this." And there were kids like crying. They loved the music. Like that, it was like a really big deal. So I love, and still one of my most favorite songs. It Smells Like Teen Spirit.
It still is.
It just gets me geeked. Like when I started playing guitar, it's one of the first songs you learn.
You have to. That's the first song I learned in the drums.
Yeah, it's required.
Because you got to get guitar.
Yeah, you got to learn it. You're not an actual musician.
People are just finding out. Some of you young people are just finding out Dave Grohl actually played drums first. Which is
I know.
100%. I don't fanboy, but I saw Dave Grohl. I don't fanboy over anybody.
Yeah.
But I saw Dave Grohl in Park City one time, and I about lost my mind. Erica's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, it's Dave Grohl. Like, it was fun. So Nirvana Nevermind. Some people don't appreciate these guys as much as I do, or didn't even listen to them. But great album, live, Throwing Copper.
Yeah, it is a good album.
I mean, just phenomenal album. And then I'm gonna go with you, Soundgarden, Super Unknown. Yeah, great album. Black Hole Sun. It's an iconic song. You hear Black Hole Sun, you've heard the 90s.
Yeah,
like it just is what it is.
Yeah.
And then like kind of, I don't want to call this a throwaway. These guys were big in Australia, but Silverchair album, Frog Stomp.
I thought you were gonna say the Newsboys. No, in Australia. That's like.
I did have my Christian albums too. Jars of Clay, their original was massive for me in the mid-90s.
We're going to do it. Okay, next week we're going to do most underrated Christian albums of all time.
All right.
They're all kind of underrated.
You're going to have to do, there's some good ones. Okay, I'm taking you to Octune.
Octune, it's German. It's German word.
Octune, baby. I can't say it. We're going to give up.
Right.
Look at me. I'm the wrong shade for saying this correctly. Radiohead, OK Computer. Mm-hmm. Like maybe top 5 album all time for everybody. No doubt Tragic Kingdom was a light ad for me here.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm from SoCal. This was, I mean.
That's a SoCal sound right there.
And that ska sound is.
Yep, ska.
Which had its own.
A spider web.
Yeah, California had its own vibe as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's what's so weird because I did Pacific Northwest and then LA. And so ska was.
So
I
good.
had so much fun going to ska shows.
I'm throwing a fourth extra one in. Miseducation of Lauryn Hill is. Come on.
You had to throw hip hop in. I appreciate that. You're not going to get it from me. Like I know
it's not.
Just didn't live there.
That Thing is one of the greatest songs of all time. I think she's top 3 rapper of all time. That's just me personally. All right. Okay, here's what we're also to get in the comments. Let us know which of the 3 of us had the best choices. And if you vote for me, you get an extra entry into the merch.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
That's great.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's enough fun. Now let's dive in.
Let's go
to some really good discussion talking about Ephesians.
Yep.
So this Sunday we dove right in. We talked about the new series we're starting called Facing Prometheus.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a super powerful analogy is the right word, or what's
I think so.
Yeah, analogy.
Yeah.
I think so. Metaphor.
Yeah. Metaphor. Allegory. No,
It's not allegory.
Not allegory. Look, guys. Okay.
Come on,
you
John,
guys
get your life
You
together.
guys do the smart talking.
Similes,
all right?
metaphors.
What do we leave out? What things that that weren't able to talk to that you guys might want to touch on, or is there anything any interesting pieces that we are? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, let's touch the 48 weeks. I think it's important. So some people were like, "Man, why 48 weeks?" And I think the reality is that, and you said it on Sunday, it's important to go slow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's important to take our time in something like this. We skim the top, and I don't think that's bad within the cycles of life of a church. There's times where you're doing topical messages, or the space that we typically sit in around here at the Well is 10 to 14 weeks. So you're doing a little bit more of a deep dive. But then as you get to that place, you start to realize, man, there's so much more gold that we can dig into here. So 48 weeks is going to allow us to just really sit on something for a while and take time and not just examine a whole big section, but maybe examine a few sections or a few sentences, or even just land on a word. Yeah. And I think it's going to give us time to really be in a place and get to understand and get to know. I hope after 48 weeks, we feel like we know Paul the Apostle better. We feel like we know Timothy better. We feel like we know the Ephesian church better. And because of that, we will know God even better. And so that for me, I think is a really important thing for 48 weeks. That's why I decided, hey, let's roll long form here.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's only 8 weeks per chapter, right? So it's simple math.
Simple math.
Don't break it down like that. That gives me anxiety.
Well, that one's totally different.
Honestly, that was a lot of people came up and said, "How are you guys going to do 48 weeks in Ephesians? Only 6." How's that possible?
Yep.
But you guys were talking about this the other day when we were talking through it. There's certain things that you'll read, and then that sparks, you have to go back, or you have to go to a new book, you have to go to a new letter, you have to have some context that then is layered in to understand why it was written in the way it was written. And go ahead.
I think one of the things that's misunderstood about the Bible is how intertwined it is. You can't just read Ephesians standalone.
Yeah.
And we touch on this a little bit. It intersects in Acts 19 through 20. It intersects with 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy. But the amount of connections back to the Old Testament as well, back through the Gospels,
Revelation.
Absolutely, in Revelation, you can't avoid it as one of the 7 churches.
Ephesus gets called out.
Called out for sure.
Yeah.
And so you're talking from beginning to end. So yes, it's 48 weeks in Ephesians, but there's no way you can't stay exclusively in Ephesians. It would be an injustice to stay solely in Ephesians. You would misunderstand it.
Yep.
And actually, I think that's one of the things that happens for a lot. I'm not going to dig against verse by verse churches. I love that. I studied that way. But if you don't go outside of that to understand what the not only what the author means or what the cultural thing is, but what other texts say that relate to that text. There's so many, not only just references, but inferences that we got to be in touch with. So it's not hard to go the rest of the year in that. But
yeah. And the specificity, if you say so specific, I'm the same way. Expository preaching is great. I think it has a significant place, I would say, within preaching and teaching.
Oh yeah,
and it must.
It's important.
I would not be the guy that jumps on the bandwagon of it. It's only expository preaching, and if you don't do that, then you ain't preaching right.
Right.
I think that's a bad take at the end of the day. And I know I probably just created a moment for somebody to take a shot at me. That's fine. But I do think what happens when we do it this way and then find ourselves in different places is that your taste palette opens up as well. You're introduced to new food. And where if you just stay expository, locked into this place. You only go through Ephesians to your point. You miss out on like some of the great tasting things that are connected to it. And then your world opens up a little bit more. You're like, I had no idea that if I'm looking at Timothy, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Paul writing to him, and then I'm looking at Ephesians side by side, what you get is Paul locking into the church and then telling Timothy how to lead.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to be able to read and study scriptures, be able to go like, this is Paul talking to the church. It's kind of like right now on a Sunday, we're going to preach to the church, but then we have staff meeting.
Yeah.
And staff meeting on Monday, we're digging into like, what does it mean to lead? How we like, what does it look like?
Right.
What's our culture? What's our, like, that's a really cool. So it's almost like this moment within scripture, Paul's speaking to the church, and then you get this really cool insight into a staff meeting with Paul and Timothy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super great.
It's awesome.
That's the deep dive that this series will help us go through 48 weeks.
48 weeks starts this Sunday. Can't wait. Facing Prometheus. And so let's touch on it. If you didn't see the message, please text sermon to 55498. We'll send you the link to this latest message so you can get the prequel to this series. But for some of you who may just be hearing or watching this podcast for the first time, they'll be like, facing Prometheus.
Yeah, that's abstract.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
You know, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we talked on Sunday about this whole idea of who Prometheus was, why we've called it that. It's based on a Greek myth, a Greek legend about a Titan named Prometheus. Excuse me, my voice is going. And so this Titan Prometheus, the way the legend goes, the legend is that Prometheus steals fire from Zeus. Prometheus is given, at least according to Greek mythology, apparently one guy who's been told he's the creator of man. When you pull all of the literary stuff around Prometheus, again, this is mythology, legends, so on and so forth. The way that it would be said is that Prometheus rebels against Zeus, steals fire, gives it to man, and because he gives it to man, man is able to progress without God. They're able to have this progression in their life without God. And so Prometheus represents this idea of rebelling against authority, rebelling against structure or confines that would be outside of one's self. And so he's the archetype character around this idea of what it means to live a life that's constructed by you and you alone. Problem is that's the problem in humanity. The things we're looking at right now in our culture, the things that we're dealing with right now, yeah, we can look at systems and we can look at all these other things, so on and so forth. But like, if we're very honest about it, like, we have a human heart issue, and humanity is we're trying to build on our own. And that's what Prometheus represents. This idea of trying to construct life, construct faith, construct churches, construct society, construct culture outside of God's authority and control and wisdom and truth. And when we start doing that, it gets bonkers.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're calling it Facing Prometheus, is because the journey that we're on, the reality that we're in, is we're facing Prometheus every day. Am I going to choose today to build on my own, or am I going to build God's way?
So good. So we played off this mythological framework. Obviously, we don't believe in this, but it's a good framework for us to use to play off of. And then you went into the horse. But what's interesting though is there's historical context that actually, like, the church in Ephesus would have been steeped in this mythological.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's their whole world.
Right.
The whole world is within Greek and Roman mythology, and even, Ephesus, because of its location, it would syncretize everything together. So whether it's Jewish mysticism or Asian beliefs or Roman or Greek, all of it would just, Egyptian stuff would come in because it's a crossroads. It's a crossroads for so many ethnicities, belief systems. It's an economic crossroads. All that stuff all goes together. So Artemis ends up being the central figure in Ephesus, and within Artemis is just this big conglomeration of a bunch of different ideas that ends up being Artemis of Ephesus.
Yeah.
I want to let's double click into this a little bit, because I think that we talked a little bit about it, but I think this is the space actually we can talk more about the Temple of Artemis specifically. So you said it a little bit. How much did it matter? Like, how important was this temple?
Massive. Because it was beyond just a landmark. It's like we grew up in Pacific Northwest, so like the Space Needle's a landmark, right? And it's even a cultural center. Like everything 100%. Around there with at least when I was there,
it.
Key Arena was right there. Like everything was there. 4th of July celebrations around the Space Needle. All these community events where everybody would gather together, and you'd have people be selling stuff around there. All of it. So it's like it becomes a whole economic party. All that stuff. Anything there didn't have a religious impact per se, but we knew it as a landmark. The piece for...
Let's go fun facts about the landmark really quick. So we got logos pulled up. So you guys know this is going to be how we're going to roll as well. So we'll be able to fact check some things and get some content. I'm a big logos fan. So I know Pastor Howie's on that as well. So this is a book by Douglas Huffman. The Story of Jesus Continues is the name of this, a survey of the Acts of the Apostles. So he writes this. This temple was approximately 425 feet by 220 feet. So it dwarfed the Parthenon in Athens.
Wow.
The temple rose 60 feet high, and it was supported by 127 drum style columns made of marble. This entire thing's made of marble. So it was gargantuan. It was ornate. It was gaudy. Like that's just the way that it was built out. So it's pretty. My voice is going crazy right now.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So we only have to talk through like another hour. So it's going to be, everybody's going to love it. It's going to be
whenever
great.
I start talking, it's just that, whatever. So anyways, this thing was massive, and it was out in front for everybody to see. It was kind of like, here is your God. That's
it's impossible to miss. The sheer size and scope of it was like, this is the center of everything. You know, a lot of our things nowadays are towers, so they're higher than everything. This wasn't necessarily higher than everything, but it was bigger than everything else, and so it dwarfed everything else around it.
That's crazy. Yep. So this thing was massive. It was involved with everybody's life, whether you went there personally or it was always in your peripheral.
Yeah, so when it's like that, when it's a center of a city, it's the center of life.
Yep.
Like everything does revolve around it. So you get the religious aspect of what it would look like to worship Artemis, which we'll get to in a moment, but you get the economic aspect of how it affected economy. I mean, if I owned a shop, I'm going to set it up as close to the temple as I am.
Right.
It's most foot traffic, all of that stuff. So all of it was integrated, right? It's not just a one thing standalone. Like, it's just religious.
Yep. And you talked about this on Sunday, one of the 7 wonders of the world.
Yep.
At the time.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot surrounding it and what it brings, which is really interesting because when you take these like Greek mythology or the gods that were set up in any one of these cities, you read a lot, like as you read through Acts, you get Paul's missionary journeys.
Yeah.
They're constantly being like informed by the god or goddess of these cities and towns that they're moving into. And it's really interesting when you take the Temple of Artemis, this big old 127 columns, marble, 425 feet by 220 feet, ornate and big and gaudy, and you compare that to the cross.
Yeah.
Like these two images do not, like they stand as polar opposites.
For sure.
And our ancient faith is not built around the grandeur of this big old massive temple. It's built around the rugged truth of the cross. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's a really cool picture. And I think that's the picture that Paul's trying to bring to the Ephesians as they sit in this city.
For sure.
And it's like, no. Don't look at the big shiny thing. Look at the brutal thing right over here, because that's the thing that transforms your life.
Yeah. So rather than a over glorification of this deity, we see the actual ruggedness and ultimately the humanity of who Jesus is in his divinity, like these two things together, where Greek gods are constantly elevated. God came down in human flesh and dwelt among us, and so it's like there was a humility where typically the Greek gods are the opposite of humble,
100%.
right? It's all about esteem and power and self-glorification and all those things. So it's a stark contrast.
And if you don't glorify them, they'll kill you.
Yes.
Or severely ruin your life.
For sure.
So it's just this weird juxtaposition at the end of the day. when you look at what Paul was facing in his missionary journeys, and the reality is that maybe we don't. I mean, there's different places you can go to where there are these ornate temples and everything like that. But at the end of the day, we are still worshiping foreign gods. I don't want to say we. I don't. I worship Jesus. So I will not include myself in that collective we.
But if Dave Grohl walks through Park City.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's interesting because a lot of people think it's like, well, I'm not worshiping Artemis.
Right.
And it's like, but aren't you?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, give us some examples.
Go.
I'm thrown on. I mean, I think, the simple thing of like even our own economics that we sit under. So personal economics, global economics, like we might not be glued to the stock ticker all the time, or maybe you are. That might be what you do. But like that has so much influence in the way that we live. Like we think that our own personal economics dictates how we worship Jesus, whether through our own generosity or through other ways, other means. So I find that's like one space.
I think it's interesting. We were talking about when we were prepping, we were talking about Wall Street and the bull. Yeah, that sits out there, and we look at it sometimes, and we kind of, we laugh about it, and we think, oh, that's a cool statue. Go take a picture when you're in New York. But the reality is that, there's not blood and flesh being sacrificed at the feet of that bull. But I was thinking about this just after we'd made the comment earlier. I was like, but I wonder how many families and marriages were sacrificed at the feet of that bull when somebody on Wall Street was going after money.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just a way. It's like, yeah, cool. Like, there's not actual blood and guts all over the thing. But man, there's blood and guts of marriages and kids who hate dads and moms. And
there's definitely some carnage.
There's some carnage laying at the feet of that bull. And I think that represents just one way that that people worship idols. I'm not going to say we anymore. That people worship idols and they don't really know it. They're still going into Artemis's temple.
Totally. Can I show you something cool about Artemis? Yeah. Like, I find this fascinating. There's no way we could have got to this on Sunday. I'm going to send you guys a couple pictures, okay? Because I want to show you.
And we'll throw this up on the screen.
Yeah, we'll do our best to get it up there. But Artemis had some changes throughout her existence, especially around Ephesus. Okay. And so the first picture I'm going to send you is from about 200 BC. Okay, this was how Artemis was portrayed around 200 BC. And I want you guys to take a look at it. I'm trying to do this for...
How are you sending it?
I'm sending it over text to you so that it pops up. Okay. So this is Artemis depicted around 200 BC. And we said on Sunday that Artemis was kind of this weird... just amalgamation of contradicting ideas. Right. So this is the Artemis of Ephesus. This is the virgin goddess, Artemis of Ephesus, right? She looks like a young woman, right. Young woman,
almost a teenager.
Right? Yeah, and that's bronze, and so that's what you see now. Artemis. We have some stuff from about 100 AD. So this is after Paul was there. But I want you, if my drag and drop is going to work here. Here we go. I want you to see this one because this is fascinating to me. This is Artemis of Ephesus around 100 AD.
Wow.
So it's very ornate. There's lots of bulls and lions and bees and all kinds of stuff. But the most noticeable thing of Artemis is her chest, right?
Yep, 100%.
That's the fertility side of things. There's disagreement among archaeologists and scholars about what they are. Yep. But there's basically one of two ideas. Mm-hmm. She's either a many-breasted woman or those are bull testicles.
Interesting.
That is the two ideas, both obviously representing.
So many questions.
You heard it first on the Analog Gospel.
So whether you want to see those as breasts or bull testicles, it's about fertility, right? And so, not that the worship of Artemis wasn't particularly egregious sexually like some of the other ones were, but it definitely was a major feature of who she was and what they were worshiping. Child protection. It definitely was an empowerment of women, which will become massive later as we read through Ephesians and 1st and 2nd Timothy.
Yeah. And I think it's, did you talk out of Acts 19 on Sunday?
A little bit. Yeah. I just touched on it.
Yeah. So, verse 23, Acts 19, verse 23 says this: about that time, there was a major disturbance about the way. So the way being Christianity. There's arguments getting ready to take place. I think Howie talked about that this weekend. For a person named Demetrius, a silversmith who made silver shrines for Artemis, provided a great deal of business for the craftsmen. So this goes back to the idea that like it wasn't just the worship of a foreign god, but like their livelihood was wrapped up around everything that was to be done for and about Artemis. And so it says this, verse 25, when he assembled them as well as the workers engaged in this type of business, he said, "Men, you know that our prosperity is derived from this business. You see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but in almost all of Asia. This man, Paul, has persuaded and misled a considerable number of people by saying that gods made by hand are not gods." Paul's being a gangster. "Not only do we run a risk that our business may be discredited, but also that the temple of the great goddess Artemis may be despised and her magnificence come to the verge of ruin, the very one all of Asia and the world worship. And when they heard this, they were filled with rage and began to cry out, 'Great is Artemis of the Ephesians.' So the city was filled with confusion, and they rushed all together into the amphitheater." That is like this contentious moment where you see Paul's running around preaching the gospel,
right?
And it's pushing against,
it's like diametrically opposed.
And they're saying, and for them, it wasn't even about their worship. They're like, "Guys, if Paul keeps this up, we're going to go poor."
Yeah.
It's just an interesting perspective when you see how all this gets wrapped up, and it's no different than our modern world right now.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's a symbol. I think of this guy, and he's got this pile of silver that he needs to make into idols, but now he's got nobody to buy them anymore.
Right.
So he's like, we got to put an end to this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go broke. What am I going to do with all this stuff?
Yep.
And I think sometimes we think of that too. Wow. I mean, honestly, I have a lot of conversations with people, and they're like, yeah, I have an email in my inbox right now that I'm responding to a meeting later this week of a guy like, I haven't crossed that line yet because I'm just afraid of what's next.
Wow.
That's the reality. When you say yes to Jesus, there's something that happens next. Something should be different. Okay. It shouldn't just be an emotional response. Yep. There's actually a thing that changes your life and changes your community that happens within you when you say yes to that.
Would you be willing? I think here's a great question. When you look at this just from a discipleship mechanism, would any of us be willing to give up monetary growth because that growth was attached to something that was diabolically opposed to Jesus?
Wow.
And Paul did this in multiple times through his missionary, multiple times. We see it with Artemis right here, and then the young girl where he prays and casts a spirit out of her, and the owner of that girl was using her and the spirit that was within her in order to. It was divination, future telling.
I mean, it's like human trafficking with the demonic, with all this stuff this guy's making profit off.
Yeah, which we're gonna get into. Like this is interesting in this letter to the Ephesians, like. Ephesians 6, spiritual warfare, demonic powers. Like if you're interested in any of that stuff, we're going to touch on it in this pod. We're going to touch it on Sunday mornings as well, but we'll be able to dig deeper because there is a reality to our faith that is supernatural in scope. You cannot ignore that. If you're looking for just this clean academic reality to our faith, then you're reading only little bits of the Bible, not the whole of it. But that's what we see going on, at least in Ephesus at this time and with Artemis.
So it's crazy. I mean, Jesus impacts the whole city and the whole makeup.
And
this
you did an amazing job of this on Sunday, talking about how this looks and what happens if Jesus impacts the current temple. What does this look like? What does this look like today if Jesus invades our city? If Jesus disrupts the system of worship that we have today.
Of worship? Okay. I mean, I think the things that we try to self-manufacture, Jesus changes it drastically. Yeah. Like it becomes less, I don't know about less emotional and more active. But maybe it's the same emotional, just adding equally as active to it. I think I was having this conversation with my son a few weeks ago, just about like my money. I use my money to speak out my ethics in the way that I live.
Great.
And so like I make ethical decisions with my money, and if it's an unethical decision, it doesn't, like for my money, I don't do it. Right. To the best of my ability. Right. I don't go down everything to find out if that fabric came from wherever. I don't
Good luck.
have the energy, honestly, and the time to do all that. But I do try to make conscious decisions with a lot of my the way that I spend my dollars. So like I think about, we go back to Wall Street.
Yep.
Could you imagine if it was a Jesus ethic on Wall Street, how that would change the economy of our entire nation? I mean,
I think that's the argument right now.
It is the argument.
Like everybody's at odds and butting heads, and the frustration and the anger and the vitriol that we see in society right now and in culture right now is because of all of these competing ideas and realities, where money should go, what is justice, like all of these different things. And at least what I'm hearing you say is that Jesus defines all of those areas of thought for us.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can't go to a train of thought of like socialism versus capitalism. Neither of those are Jesus-driven systems.
Right.
In fact, both of them have a lot of non-Jesus in them. And so I think we have to be asking, how does Jesus actually impact?
That was a hot potato statement right there.
I know.
No, it's absolutely great. I love it.
And I know we could go a long ways on this, but here's the thing. I don't want to let's not talk about it corporately from Wall Street. I've been to Wall Street once.
Right.
Like I don't have any influence whatsoever in Wall Street, but I do in myself.
Yep.
And so I got to be asking Jesus, how are you influencing my economics? What does that do for me? You know, I was blessed with a raise this year. So immediately I got to go, my raise affects my tithe, my giving, my budget.
Yep.
How do I do that? Where does it fit in? How does that influence all kinds of things? So like, what am I actively doing with it? It's not a passive thing, it's an active thing.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we have to have that type of thinking in all spaces, our finances, where we work, you know what I mean? Like obviously we are incredibly blessed to be in vocational ministry and to be a part of this beautiful thing that God is building. But no matter where you are, you have to come to the table with where you work and how you parent and your marriage and how you do singleness. That's the pillars that we're talking about in this series. Is like this letter is going to work to define like every part of who you are as a human being and as a follower of Jesus. Yeah. And so I think that's really important. I'm reading this from a book called The City of Ephesus, is by David Arthur De Silva, an introduction to the New Testament, contexts, methods, and ministry formation. Long title. But he writes this, that temples to other deities attest to the diversity of religious traditions honored in the city, but the other cult worthy of special attention in Ephesus is the imperial cult.
Yeah, it is.
A temple of Rome and Julius Caesar dating from Augustus's reign stood beside the main administrative building. A sanctuary of Augustus was situated within the complex of the temple of Artemis, with another temple of Augustus standing adjacent to the agora. So what do we call it? The imperial cult?
Yeah, emperor worship.
Emperor worship.
Let's
talk about that. You brought that up on Sunday.
I did,
I think it's an important thing because it once again, we're talking about,
right.
You may not think you're worshiping Artemis, but are you? And you may not think you're worshiping the emperor, but are you?
Yeah. Well, I would say if your peace and joy and all that fruit of the Spirit is determined by who's in charge, you might want to ask that. That might be another tell that we're talking about, like on who you are actually worshiping.
100%.
I get it, man. Things are tense, but some of that tension is manufactured tension. Because I think it's all. One of the things I think that's so beautiful about the way that we're going through Ephesians is how we need to slow down in almost everything that we do.
Yep.
So most of our reactions and responses need to be slowed down as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, man, this is such a. I know this can get touchy, and we'll get comments on it, and that's fine. But the reality is that we do have to. I know there's big sweeping titles that are being made right now, and we talk about how much our faith should influence a nation, how much our faith should influence us personally, large groups of people, so on and so forth. But I think what we have to do is we always have to step back, no matter where we're at, no matter what's going on, and go, is Jesus truly influencing everything that I do, everything that I think, everything that I say? And I would say for all parties right now, you talk about left, you talk about right, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. I think
moderates. Let's just throw everybody
moderates
in
out
there
there.
too.
Yeah, people who are more centrist in certain things.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I sit back and I watch a lot of what's going on right now. every side says that they have Jesus involved.
Right.
Yeah.
So right there, everybody should stop really quick and start thinking, because it's like one side says, well, no, my view of justice and my view of law, my view of rule is Jesus centric. And the other side is saying the same thing. So at that, we should all stop for just a second and go like, well, maybe we should really look at what Jesus is saying and look at what Scripture says and so on and so forth. But I think in the world that we're in right now, and again, there's so many trails that we can or cannot go down. Maybe not in this first episode, but I really do think it is an interesting thing when we look at emperor worship in this moment and what Paul contends for. He contends for like nothing but Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, he's not taking the titles that are given to Caesar and putting them on Jesus.
Yep.
He's saying that these titles were always Jesus.
Yep.
Like literally Jesus' name means savior. So Yeshua, Joshua, they're the same. They mean savior. So he's like, this is Jesus' name. You guys shouldn't be putting it on an emperor.
Yeah.
Son of God, that's always been Jesus since before time, not the beginning of time, but before time. That name does not belong to Caesar.
Yep.
That belongs to Jesus. So it's a reorienting. Stop putting labels on stuff where it doesn't belong.
Yep.
When it belongs to God.
You had a great quote on Sunday. Do you remember the behavior one?
Vaguely, yes.
When you know who you are, your behavior has no choice but to catch up with you.
Yeah, and I think if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I call myself a Christian, which literally means little Christ. So I belong to the Christ, the Messiah, to Jesus. Then if that is your identity, then your behavior automatically follows it. I want to look like a little Christ. I want to belong with other little Christs. I want to think like a little Christ. All of that stuff that starts to change who we are. I don't just want the title of like Christian's not an adjective. It's actually a noun, you know. I think I talk to young people sometimes, our young adults around here, and they want to go into vocational ministry, or they're like, how do you do this whole thing? And I'm like, well, why don't you just get a vocation and do it for Jesus?
Right.
Like there's nothing different about being an attorney who loves and follows Jesus and does your practice that way than there is for us. It's different hats. Like we're doing different things with different
acumen,
skills and all of that stuff. But like, it is no less beneficial.
Yep.
Like, holy cows, do we need teachers that love and follow Jesus in our elementary schools? You better believe it.
100%.
And so like, I think we get these misnomers about like, that we think like Christian's an adjective when it really is an identity. It's literally who we are as a noun.
So interesting moment, Matthew 22, starting in verse 15, talking about like emperor worship and so on and so forth. So it says this, I'll read it. It's just, this always sticks out to me when we go down this vein and we start talking about it. And honestly, like I'll play my hand. I haven't made a ton of commentary on some of the stuff that's happening in the world right now, happening in our nation right now, because there's, for a lot of reasons, study. Right now, I'm just getting ready for the launch of a series, so that's what we're looking at. But right now, trying to be slow. I said this a couple months back, is that like we have a tendency in our world right now. I think especially because of social media, everything's like moving really, really fast, and so it's like you're expected to talk fast. But the problem is that if you're talking fast, you're probably thinking fast, and you're missing some stuff. Yeah. And so for me, I am trying to, and I really don't care about the pressure that is received from the outside. I'm trying to just think slower about things and have a framework that I feel like is birthed out of conviction and knowledge at the end of the day. But so there's this interesting moment that Jesus has with the Pharisees that I think is really important for the moment that we're in culturally. And it says this: then the Pharisees went and plotted how to trap him by what he said. Think about that.
Right. Yeah.
The Pharisees are trying to trap Jesus by what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. Teacher, they said, we know that you are truthful and teach truthfully the way of God. You don't care what anyone thinks, nor do you show partiality. Like, think about this moment right here. It's like Jesus is running around doing his own podcast right now, and the Pharisees are trying to trap him.
Well, that's a little flattery that doesn't they're buttering him up.
Yeah, they're
sure.
buttering up big time. So you don't care what anyone thinks, nor do you show partiality. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Perceiving their malicious intent, Jesus said, "Why are you testing me, hypocrites?" Now, none of us would roll out the gate with that, but man, like the way Jesus responds always fascinates me. And so he said, perceiving their malicious intent, Jesus said, "Why are you testing me, hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius, whose image and inscription is this. He asked them, "Caesar's?" They said to him. Then he said to them, "Give then to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And when they heard this, they were amazed. So they left him and went away. Yeah. This is Jesus being so calculated in the way that he's saying things and the way that he's addressing things in the midst of a moment where, honestly, the reason that Caesar's face is on there is because he was being worshipped. We had a cult empire, the worship of the emperor. And so this piece of text sits in my mind and sits in my heart literally daily as we see things come quick at us through our social media and through our news sources and the things that we're reading in our different spaces that we're reading and gaining information from. So I think if I could just be personal with everybody really quick, if you're watching this and you're like, man, how do you think through things, or are you thinking through things? The answer to that is yes, I am thinking through things. I'm just trying to think a certain way. And I'm like, we've said this before, we won't be bullied into thinking in a way or a pace that you want me to think. I will think and do, talk and react the way that I need to.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I would imagine both of you guys are the same. Like, I know whenever I react to something, I almost always regret the way that I reacted.
100%.
Like almost, whether it's friendships with my kids, whatever, react to some news. Like, my first feeling is rarely accurate.
Yep.
Not even the best, but even accurate to the situation.
Yep.
And so I've found that it's just good to slow down, take a breath, ask some questions, understand some motives if you can't, like those kinds of things. I'm thinking relationally, but I think it holds true with any news item that comes out. Take a breath. Take a breath and slow down, ask some questions, and
we talked about this clarity on Sunday after the message, but like the biblical guidance for maturity in this is James 1. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. For human anger does not accomplish God's righteousness.
Yeah.
And I get the tension right now. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not lost to me. We were talking about this at staff meeting yesterday. We love this church, this beautiful tapestry, this thing that God is building with all kinds of different people from all kinds of different spaces, from all kinds of different places, facing all kinds of different things. And so that weighs on my shoulders and my heart every single news cycle, every single moment, every single flashpoint, like every single thing that's happening. And so I don't want to alienate people with one brash statement or this thing here. And it's funny that we're in this conversation when we first started talking about the temple of Artemis. And but this is what this podcast is going to be out. It's just we're going to drift and we're going to find ourselves into different waters.
Now you know how we get 48 weeks out of it.
Yeah, well, here's what I mean. I think what you're saying is that we don't want to be homogeneous, right? Homogeneous, however you want to say it. But we don't want to be like. I mean, when I see homogenous, I think of white milk, right? It's homogenized. Like that's not dairy. That's not who the church is designed to be. No. Frankly, it started brown, so I think brown's good to have in it.
Hey man, come on, somebody.
There we go. So like to me, that's like that is the right space to be. Is to be a homogenous, or not homogenous, but like diverse and full of life and full of different things. That doesn't mean that there isn't truth to what we have to say.
Our truth is not diverse.
It is not. And so like,
that's good.
But I would say like slowing to speak isn't hoping not to offend somebody. It's literally going, there are multiple perspectives with which to take into account the way that we talk about something. No matter what, when you say something, somebody takes it wrong.
Somebody's going to get frustrated.
You know, there's going to be somebody on this podcast that's offended. And it's the reality.
You're going to get offended whether you're a new Christian, an old Christian, or
absolutely.
What did you say?
A middle Christian.
Middle Christians. I thought that was hilarious.
Middle-aged.
I was thinking like Middle Earth Christian. Somebody was probably offended by the posters. If we go back to that, like, there's always offense. Our goal on this podcast is not to Erica and I. And if you're new to this podcast or maybe new to our church, my wife's name is Erica, so you hear me mention her. We were talking about this the other day, and it was like, here's the way to never offend somebody. Don't say anything.
Right.
Yeah.
which we're not called to.
Nope.
Like, as a pastor and as a leader and as a communicator, like, we are called to rightly divide God's word, and to rightly divide God's word, it's going to touch, it's going to touch every situation, every circumstance. It's going to have to cause us to weigh in on the realities of the world that we live in, so on and so forth. But my goal personally is to do it in such a manner where I hope to win as many people as possible.
Totally.
Not alienate as many people as possible or offend as many people as possible.
Well, I think even out of the pastoral role, when we're speaking on a stage or whatever, like you go back to the James. James doesn't say don't speak. He says, be slow to speak.
Yeah. Right.
Still with the understanding
100%.
that we got to speak at some point. Just slow down before you open your big mouth and stick your foot in it. Right.
And we're gonna get this again if you jump into Timothy. Paul's going to talk to the church in Ephesians, but he's going to tell Timothy what his responsibility is. We've read this before at church, but like I think many times we just forget it, or we don't realize, like when Paul speaks to Timothy, he's like, bro, you need to do some things that are very, very pointed. You're going to rebuke, you're going to correct, you're going to encourage, right? And it's all done by the word of God, and that's a very big deal.
Yeah.
So I like that. That's all part and parcel. I think the reality that we got into is like pastors went on the PR campaign trail, and they thought that the purpose of a pastor is to be liked by everybody. And that's just not that's not it.
Right.
And if everybody likes you, I don't know if you're pastoring well.
Yeah, I'm reading 2 Corinthians right now for my daily reading. Paul was not liked in Corinth. That's the reality.
That's true.
Nobody liked him. And he's like, yeah, but God's given me the authority and the voice and all of this to tell you guys about the gospel.
And you know what
they
he did?
did not like him.
He wrote hate letters to them just to get him, like, he literally was just like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to speak at some point, like you said, but there's biblical truth.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm thankful for this place that we have a place. And I said this on Sunday, founded on biblical truth. Because when we were singing, lay it all down.
Yeah.
All means all.
All.
Yeah. Because I was joking around with Mason on Sunday after that. I was like, we often we're really singing I surrender some. Like that's literally like if you're
for sure.
We're really
2/3
all
God, you get 2/3.
But there's always that one thing, and like I'm preaching myself here,
Absolutely.
right? Like there's always something that we are always wrestling with, but the ability to surrender it all fully and completely, that's where transformation happens.
100%.
And
we're all dads.
Yeah.
Like at this table, you've got 3 kids. I've got 3 kids. He has a tribe, 5
I'm
kids.
putting a whole football team together.
Yeah,
we're starting that Utah football team.
No, you're not. You're putting a whole hockey crew together.
It is a hockey crew.
Right?
Yeah.
You could.
I mean, yes.
You could ice an entire crew.
It would literally
100%.
Yeah.
So we're all dads, and my oldest will be 16 February 1st. My goodness.
Wow.
16 February 1st. My oldest. And here's the thing that this happened yesterday. Is I'm talking to my 2 oldest, and guess what? I had 2 out of my 3 kids in the house yesterday didn't like me for a little while.
Yeah.
Does that make me a bad father?
Right. Yeah. No.
To me, in the way that I look at it, actually makes me a good dad, because my role and my responsibility is not to make my kids like me.
Right.
My role and responsibility is to shape and form my kids.
Yeah.
We're going to get into this.
Yes, we will.
It's going to be fun. But I think it's important to know, because what happens is I think the church often wants the pastor to be a cruise boat director rather than a fatherly figure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's
so just
true.
entertain me and make me feel good and so on and so forth. And it's like, actually, no, Paul says to Timothy, with this word, you have a distinct responsibility, and you will be held accountable by Jesus for that.
Yep.
Can I show you guys a story real quick? This is actually, one of our youth leaders sends me a voice memo the other night, and it's after youth group, and he goes, and I was just talking to Mason, who's my oldest, and Mason and I have had this bit of contention about him owning a phone. He's 14 years old now, about to turn 15. And if you know Mason, he's probably the most responsible.
Right.
We're getting to the point where it's probably about time for getting him a phone, but he doesn't have one yet. And so the youth group leader asked him, how do you feel about that? And he said, I was really mad, and oftentimes I get really mad, but I know my dad, and I love my dad, and I know he loves me. So I trust that he's doing the right thing for me, even though I hate it.
Yep.
And I think a lot of times we get stuck in that place where, you know, sometimes it sucks to hear what we have to hear.
Yeah.
And it hurts. But if you know your pastor, if you know your dad, if you know your father, if you know God, you know that he has a good plan for your life. That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
and so it's going to suck sometimes. It's really going to suck sometimes, but it's, man, that got me. I'm about to cry right now.
Yeah, it should get you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's train a child in the way they should go, so they do not depart from it. That's the responsibility of fathers. I cannot wait for, it's Ephesians 5. We get into Ephesians 5. We start talking about marriage. We start talking about parenting. And we haven't, I think I'm in the place in life. I know you're in the place of life. Others where when we get to lean, it'd be a fun podcast is to get like some of our kids on here.
That would be cool.
That'd be
also super dangerous.
Yeah, off the rails. Anyways, but I'm in a place now where like I feel a special burden now to really push into fathers.
Yeah.
And to push into men. And we're going to have those conversations on this. Again, may not like what we have to say, but we're going to go for it because there is a mandate upon us. But I think it's a great mechanism. I know we get shepherd and sheep and some of those other like pictures when it comes to scripture, but I really do like as to what a pastor's role is in this whole thing. But interesting, Paul's going to give us, this is why we're doing this letter. Ephesians 4 is going to line out who these people are to be in the church and what they're supposed to do. And you're going to get Paul lining this out for the Ephesians and then speaking to Timothy, the pastor, if you will, in a moment as to what his role and responsibility is. And I think what you end up seeing a very fatherly picture in our role and responsibility when it comes to this stuff. I don't know how we got here, but it's a cool place.
We started on Temple of Artemis.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
You guys wrapped up with that topic?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. We got a couple more little pieces on this Facing Prometheus vein. And then we got a couple, we got to get to the mailbag still because there's some really fun stuff there. But real quick, Paul's writing style, I wanted to touch on this just a little bit more. Because he writes a specific way and you said it. Talk a little bit more about that because I thought there was a whole service didn't even hear this, and I think
so there's
true.
The style with which Paul writes is called epideictic rhetoric. And
spell that.
Yeah, good luck. No, I will not. It's not even in my notes.
Can we just call it epic rhetoric?
Epic?
Well, no, I know.
No, because it has all those Greek words break down into different.
Deictic, right?
And you got to be careful.
I know.
I mean, he's trying to get people. It's a way of convincing somebody of something. Like it's a way of. Ultimately, it's a lot of the ways that we preach nowadays.
Right.
It's this style of this is who God is, this is who you are in God, and so you need to act this way. Like that was literally the letter.
A lot of conclusionary statements.
Yeah, big, high arcing ideas that then slowly get drilled down. And that is that's awesome. I mean, to me, I don't want to be told what to do until I know the why.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, like, I mean, we all have kids. We all know that's the case, right? And even with why sometimes they don't even want to do it. You know, even when you tell them the why, they'll ask you.
Because I said so.
And that's when you get to it, right?
because
I'm your dad.
Yep.
But that's what Paul's trying to communicate through that. And so I think it's really important to understand that's the heart behind it. Like the heart behind the whole letter is I want you guys to live this way. Because this is who your father is, and how much he loves you and adores you, and what how powerful he is, how he controls all the spiritual realms and all those things that he gets into. But the epideictic rhetoric is a big piece to it.
And on a practical level, when you read the letter from his type of rhetoric and this type of writing, you're gonna be introduced to some of the longest form sentence structure.
Oh man,
that you'll have in a letter. I mean,
so many run-on sentences.
So many run-on sentences. I mean, you're getting verse after verse after verse. You're like, where's the period? And it hasn't come yet. It's just comma after comma after comma.
It's almost like voice to text, right?
Yeah.
Like my mother-in-law loves to text through voice, and we'll get these long texts that are multiple scrolls. Hi, Mom. But it's almost like that's what he's doing. It's almost, the letter is very much in the way that someone would speak. Like it's not just writing. There's heart behind it.
And he's almost preaching it.
Oh yeah, I think it
feels
really,
like he's it feels like I like sometimes Erica will lean over. Can you stop typing so hard? And I was like, I'm preaching right now. Like you're going hard. It's almost like Paul hit a vein, hit a nerve, and he just keeps going. I'm just gonna write, comma, write, comma, write. Like, and when he gets done, here's your period. I want you to know this whole thing with as much passion, as much gusto as I possibly can. Big sentence. I don't want to lose anything with multiple paragraphs or multiple sentences or just singulars. So it's like, it's a really, really cool writing style. It's what makes Ephesians fun. And if you if you look at it, I've got like writing it all mine where you get these gaps and these big swaths of truth that you can't hide from, because it's just so punchy and it's right there, and it makes you stay in it. Because I probably missed my microphone there. It makes you stay in it because he hasn't given you a period.
Right.
And that's what I love. And it's a very specific writing style that he's using in this letter versus other letters that he's written.
Well, it's like Papyrus is like super expensive too. So like he's just pumping out thought after thought after thought because I mean, he's probably also thinking this is a lot of money putting this on paper. You know, but
these big doxologies. Let's read this one right here. Ephesians 3, verse 14. For this reason, I bow my knees to the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, from whom the whole family in heaven and earth is named, that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might through his Spirit in the inner man, that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the width and the length and the depth and the height, to know the love of Christ which surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God. That is one big statement, but what he's trying to get you to read it like that. I want all of this to be in this one statement, because I don't want you to get distracted from it. And it pulls you in it pulls you into what he's saying, instead of just reading it as a statement with a period and then move on to the next statement.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I love about it, so Paul's Hebrew, so like he's like Hebrew's his native tongue,
right,
and he's got all these other languages in his back pocket. Someday we'll do a podcast about languages and such, but Greek's kind of logical and mathematic, where Hebrew's very poetic.
Yeah.
And this is him melding the two together.
Beautiful.
Like he's going, okay, I've got I got to write in logical Greek, but I'm thinking in Hebrew right now. It's like the way that my brain goes.
That's
and
cool.
So like he's trying to do all this beauty in one place that is just like, I just find that really cool. So normally I'm kind of a grammar Nazi. The run-on sentences don't bother me in this one.
If you looked at my writing, you'd be like, bro, use a period.
Grammarly's really helpful in this
Grammarly
sense.
is helpful.
This language, I'm writing notes already. I'm like, they're talking about the Hebrew, like the way
John's like, let's get on it right now.
Man, some other time.
You got to tune in, subscribe. We forgot to do all those little intros. Subscribe
right now.
Smash that bell.
Button pushing.
Hit the bell. Yeah. You got to subscribe to the Analog Gospel Podcast here on at the Well, Utah. And yeah. We'll hit through the weekend.
There's so much good. Like, when you come back from this, there's so much good stuff in it when you think about this.
Awesome.
Now that I look at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many long form sentences here.
Yeah. He does a lot in this. Yeah.
Well, it's one. Yeah. It looks like multiple sentences, but it's.
Well, yeah. I mean, our English translators will break them up because they want to help us have thoughts.
A lot of the Hebrew, a lot of it's written in like poem form, right? Like.
Yeah. I mean, Hebrew is just the way that the language itself works. You really see that pretty much every word's a metaphor. That maybe is an oversimplification, but like there's a lot fewer words, but a lot more grandiose ideas behind them. I don't know how else to describe that, but it's just way more poetic, just in the way that the word.
Save it.
Save it
for the next podcast.
Cool,
I took some notes.
Yeah,
we got it. Okay, let's jump into the mailbag. Let's jump into the mailbag. Okay, we've got it.
Do you have an actual mailbag? Can you please make that happen? Just a mailbag that says mail on it.
We need a mailbox.
You know who is in charge of that?
This is the analog gospel, not the digital.
We need old school mailbox.
That is
with the
cool.
metal
Just
door.
open it up.
Creak it open. Was that? Did Pee Wee Herman
address.
Didn't Pee Wee Herman have something like that back in his whole show?
Gosh, let's not talk about that. Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
an email address. Send us a card.
No,
us a note.
It'd be kind of cool.
We
should do some kind of mail
letter.
and then
awesome.
we can. Are we gonna send mail? But anyways, okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah,
guys, we're figuring this out. It's our first podcast. I just realized we never even introduced ourselves.
Send your comment via mail. That's
we're going to be addressing questions 8 weeks late. We didn't even introduce ourselves.
Any hate mail goes to.
I know, just put names up on the.
Yeah, we'll put names up.
But
this is Pastor Jason. He's the lead pastor. This is Pastor Howie Smith. He's one of our staff pastors, and I'm the ugly fat brown guy that's
Stop that.
My name is John.
Send comments right now. Be quiet, John. You're
okay, cool. We're hitting this mailbag. There's some good. Oh, I believe it. Come on. All right.
You have 5 kids.
I have 5 kids. All right, here we go. I've filtered myself real quick. Okay, we got to get to this. All right, question 1. We had somebody send, and I'm formatting these questions so that way we're not reading somebody's exact question necessarily, but you'll probably know that's yours. Yeah. But somebody was talking about how where's the line between enjoying mythology and or fantasy and then engaging something demonic, right? Because we're talking about mythology, we're in this space, and I think it's actually a really cool question.
Yeah,
it's a great question. So where's the line between enjoying mythology and fantasy and engaging in something demonic? One of my favorite writers, C.S. Lewis. You get the Chronicles of Narnia. Without an understanding of Lewis's backdrop and his faith, from just an onlooker's perspective, you would go, "That's fantasy writing."
Yeah.
So what makes something inherently negative or not negative? You know what I'm saying? If you look at that, if I didn't know C.S. Lewis was writing and that there's overtones in his writing about God and the gospel and Jesus, then I would just go, this brother wrote a story about a lion and there's witches involved and there's these different fantasy creatures, so on and so forth. The only reason that you've given it a pass is because it's Lewis. Right. But then we've got Lord of the Rings and so on and so forth. So I think we get into another section of text. It's Corinthians when Paul talks about to the pure, all things are pure. I believe that's Corinthians. And you've got to. I think this is a question that doesn't just hit mythology and fantasy, but I think it hits anything. We talk about music. Where's the line, so on and so forth. And I really do. It comes down to the believer's conscience on this. Unless it's holistically wrong, overtly grotesque. Right. There are some songs even on some of these bands' album that I won't listen to because my mind and my heart and my soul is just way more sensitive than it used to be, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's certain things that just full stop I will not watch and I will not listen to, right? And I think when it comes to fantasy and mythology and some of these things, I study in a lot of different places. And so I'm reading mythology.
There's an intellectual aspect.
There's an intellectual aspect here, 100%. So if I don't know it, if I don't understand it, then I can't speak to it in the way that we need to speak to it. Your imagery, when you brought up the stuff for Artemis, you gotta research that stuff. And you say, oh, you're researching Artemis. That's bad. No, I'm gaining a knowledge and an understanding. Jesus knew. Paul knew. These people knew some of these things. I think where this question is potentially coming from, you do have to be careful with it, though. Yeah. Because at the same time, if it's influencing your thought process, if it's influencing your attitude, if it's influencing the way that you believe things to be, then you can be entering into darker territory.
I think even specifically right now I'm watching Percy Jackson with my daughter. Yeah. It's all Greek mythology. That's the whole point of the whole thing. But when you can stop and talk about it, one of the things that's happening within that show is that it grays out the distinction between good and evil. It makes everything very gray.
Interesting.
That even actions the actions are only determined by the motives, even though the actions are wrong. Right. And I think having a conversation with my daughter, then being able to talk that through and not gray stuff out. Yep. I don't want it to be gray. I want her to think through it thoughtfully and slowly, and not just be oh, well, we can do whatever we want if our motives are okay. Yeah. And
I know there's a whole line of teaching about and we could hear this, and again, I don't want to say this oversimplistically, and I don't want to say it in such a way that's demeaning. But I grew up with a bit more of a Pentecostal background, so people start talking about like opening doors and
you're opening a portal with every movie you watch.
Exactly.
That's
and
over PG-13.
I do believe this is what's so hard about this. I do believe that there's demonic influence 100%.
Right.
We're going to get into that in warfare, like when we get into the spiritual warfare side of things in Ephesians 6. We have to understand that. But I don't think because I am sitting and watching a movie with my kid that I'm trying to introduce them to a way of thinking and work through it, or whether it's a type of music. I'm having a dialogue because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to train them in how to live within the world. Yeah. And you're not opening that up. You open it up when you allow that thing to have authority in your world.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's why I start to say, like, man, if it's changing your mind on things, if it's changing your mood on things, if it's creating dispositional changes. So, but that can be anything.
For sure.
A kid, my middle daughter loves books, and I love that she loves to read, right? But she could be reading the most benign book. But if I watch a disposition change because she's locked into reading her book, or we've got kids that are on screen, so on and so forth, it doesn't matter what the content is. It's changing their disposition. It needs to be removed.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how I'm paying attention to things. Do they have the maturity to be able to filter things that are happening in the world around them, because we live in the world.
Right.
We don't live in bomb shelters with bubble wrap and nothing coming in. That's just not the way that world's
and
designed.
not only kids, I think some of us as adults
100%
need to work that muscle out, to work on that maturity, to know what we need to say no to.
Yeah.
Is that we were just talking about this, the Lord of the Rings, you brought up Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, who infamously just railed on C.S. Lewis's allegory, which is just like, really? Jesus is a lion? Really? Like,
I think they were brothers though.
Yeah.
They're friends for sure.
Yeah,
they were
for
friends.
But Tolkien, like, people accept Lord of the Rings because of who Tolkien is. Right. They know he's a believer. Yep. And Tolkien, so I'm rereading it, and there's the second edition when he rewrites, fixes a couple little things, and he writes a preface for it. He puts, like, I know everybody thinks that this is an allegory. I hate allegories. I did not write this to be an allegory of my faith. I wanted to tell a really good story.
Tell a good story.
And then he said, at the same time, he said, but the reality is, I understand. I will say that it is true because of who I am. There is inherently biases in what I write. Yeah. And it's the transformation in his writing is that, like, that's the exact point, right? Like, because of who he is and who he's been transformed by, it comes out in his writing. So I think that's awesome. The point. Like, how the transformation is not because of what you're taking in, or the transformation is what you're taking in, not because you're just watching a movie that has, like Harry Potter in it or something like that. Yeah. We are transformed by Christ, and then everything flows out of that.
Yeah. And I want to say that we have 5 minutes left, like a few more minutes left here. I would say that story is important, and being able to use story, whether it's designed in a fantasy way, a mythological way, or if you think about the parables that Jesus told, they were actually very offensive parables. People were offended by the stories that he was telling in order to drive a point home. Yeah. Think about that. The characters that were involved with his parables, so on and so forth, they were deeply offensive. To you and I, we look at them, and they're like kind of benign to us. But that's because we didn't live in that culture. We didn't live with the ethnic backdrop. We didn't live in a moment that had Pharisees and deep contentions between different people groups. Jesus told stories. Sure, maybe it didn't have somebody who was half a deer with a human head as a picture. But man, he told some stories that deeply offended the people that were listening to it, because he was trying to drive a point home about who the character was and so on and so forth. Yeah. So we have to also remember that story teaches. Yeah, and that's a really important thing for us to remember. Story teaches. Okay. So,
we're not going to be able to cover. There's a couple mailbag questions in here that have way too much context. So here's what I want to do. I want to actually ask one of them and tell people that we're going to answer it on the next podcast. If that's okay. Actually, both of them. Actually, both of them will do that. So next week, next week, we're talking about.
I can't wait for next week. I know,
so if you can't get out of Ephesians without having this discussion,
100%.
So you want to do a little preview?
Yep.
Predestination.
Time's up.
Tune back. Next week. The other question, which I think this one is actually, somebody needs to have this. We need to have this conversation. Somebody needs to hear it. I would love to answer, because we talked a lot about transformation this week. What if I'm ready to be transformed, but my spouse isn't? Wow. We had quite a few versions of this question.
Okay. That's great. Can I just give one voice of hope to that? Like, stay consistent and it will change your spouse. Stay consistent with Jesus and it will slowly change your spouse.
Yeah.
Amen.
I can't wait to talk about this next week.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun episode next week. So
good.
Awesome.
Guys, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
The Analytic Gospel episode 1 is we did it. We announced our names at the very end. We'll get better, but guys, I think this is really cool. It's fun having this conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining in. And this is gonna be a really, really fun journey as we get into all things in the book of Ephesians and many, many other topics that are gonna get touched on this podcast. So thanks for joining us. Like I said, subscribe, lock in with us. It's going to be a really, really cool journey.
Yeah.
Love y'all. See you on Sunday.